welcome to Food for Thought. I'm Ramona, and it's always so nice to be here with you. And especially today, we have a very interesting topic. Well, at least I think all our topics are interesting, but today you might be a little confused by what the topic is. It's about how to be selfish the right way. Yes, we're actually promoting the concept of being selfish, but stay tuned for what we mean by it. Joining me today here in studio is the group editor of Y Media, YuppTV. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ramona ji. It's always a pleasure joining you here at Food for Thought, and once again, we are here together. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. What do you think about this topic of being selfish the right way?
I think it's a great topic, and I'm sure you're going to lead us today, because as much as this word selfish has a bit of a negative connotation, but you just added the whole dimension to it when you said being selfish the right way.
Exactly.
So I'm sure Ramona ji is going to take us through how can we be selfish, but without the negative connotation and do it the right way. Let me hear it from you.
Absolutely. So essentially, when we're little children and, with our family, our parents, our caregivers, they teach us things like manners, how to be polite, how not to have tantrums and how to share and all those things that is supposed to make you a good person. And when you're a good person, well, then you get rewarded at home, right? That's when you either you get the playtime or you get the candy or whatever it is that your parents reward you with good behavior, especially if you have siblings, even more so, how you treat them. So then you grow up thinking, if I say no, if I, don't feel like doing something, or if I don't want to share something, then I'm selfish, so I must always give and give and give. And then there's the term of being selfless. So now it's about, where do you find the balance about being able to take care of your own personal needs so you show up as a more loving, kind, happier person, not only for yourself, but for people in your life. So that's actually the key thing, because it's about finding balance, about taking care of yourself, and about also having those dynamic relationships that you grew up learning in terms of how to be in society. So what I thought would be interesting is to take a look at this negative connotation, as you said, because the Oxford Dictionary, when you look up selfish, it says that it's a person, action, or motive lacking consideration for others and is only concerned with their own personal profit or pleasure. Then you take a look at that, so it's completely negative, because nobody wants to say, yes, that's me. And nobody wants to say, give me a name tag that says selfish. And then, in the past little while, I think in the last few decades in the Western world, we came up with the concept of self-care. And so sometimes we'd interchange it saying, oh, I don't want to be selfish, but I'm all for self-care. So I said, what is self-care in the Oxford Dictionary? Self-care is said to be taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, and also during stressful times. I'm not talking about just taking action to preserve your health. I'm talking about, how do you live in a lifestyle where you are able to take care of your basic needs, like, you need sleep, you need to have a proper diet, you need some sort of movement and exercise or some movement for your body, you need to be intellectually stimulated, you need to have interpersonal relationships, and you also need to be able to, be a provider, take responsibility for your family, loved ones. But also you need to have, aside from your emotional needs met, there's all these other aspects of you, because we're not just like this one-dimensional being that we're supposed to come into this earth, go to school, and after school get a really good job, and then find someone amazing to wed and have children, and then retire at a certain time, and then still have your family around to have these retirement activities, and at a good time say goodbye to this life. I mean, that's always been the narrative in every movie, in every story, in everything. So we grow up thinking this is what to do, and I don't want to be all those negative things. And so what happens when you say, well, maybe there's variations of these things, but maybe there is more to this life than this dimension of who I think I am, who my personality is, who I'm supposed to be because my parents told me so. They told me what religion I have. They told me my ethnicity, the culture, I have a passport for a certain country, and these are our laws, these are our values, these are our behaviors, these are our customs, and that becomes an aspect of you, but it's not the only thing that you are. We're multidimensional beings. We're spiritual beings having this physical experience and this, in what we think is physical, because it's based on like, if I can see it, touch it, feel it, then it's real. But no, there's this whole dimension, or dimensions, shall I say, that you can't see, but sometimes you feel it. And so that's just the gist of where we're going to go today.
Wow. I think I'm glad that you picked up this topic, because even before I go into this, and I'm sure you're going to lead us more into this one, and this was, I'm sharing again, as always, from my personal experience. If you would have asked me this thing maybe just 10 years ago, not too far back, I don't think so I would have been able to give you any answer or comprehend this thing. Why? Because today, if I may ask anyone who's watching this show, do you know what is your makeup? Do you know what are you made of? We could all say, or what are the ingredients that you're made of? And I think that is where self-introspection comes in. And one of the things that I'm sure when we read biographies of any people who've done very well in their lives, whether they're great leaders in the history, whether they're done very well in business, whether they are great athletes, great coaches, motivational speakers, I think one of the things that I've clearly realized is they all know one thing for sure. And I think you figured that out. Maybe I figured that out too. What makes you happy? It's very important that we figure out what makes us happy. And it all starts, if we haven't figured out, that's fine. But I think one box definitely has to be ticked. What is that? Introspection. We need to start introspecting what makes us happy, what is my makeup, what am I made of, and all these things. When we start asking us all these questions, then maybe we could also ask us this question, am I selfish? We should ask ourselves, am I selfish? And then maybe we realize that yes, even if we are, because when you send me this talk, this is very interesting. I said, I haven't done this topic, and we're talking food for thought, good thought, motivation, positive things, and we're talking about being selfish, but then in the right way. So even if we are selfish to a certain extent, is it in the right way? And I think if we are in the right way, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that if we are in the right way, then actually we are helping others as well. Along the way, we're helping ourselves. First of all, we're helping ourselves, but then we're helping others as well. So if I'm not happy, if I'm not successful, I may or may not be able to, it'll be challenge for me to spread happiness around me. If I'm not successful, if I'm not motivated, if I'm not vibrating in a very higher energy, I doubt I'm being selfish, that I want to be successful, happy, vibrate in a higher energy. So these are all things I'm doing for myself. Somebody could say, okay, Yudhvir, this is all for you. But then if I am trying to accomplish all these things in a way, whoever comes close to me, they will also start feeling this. Oh, this guy is happy. It's contagious. Happiness is contagious. If you're in a vibrating high energy, it is contagious. If you're successful, you might share your thoughts about being successful. So I think so. And now I'll note it down, and I want you to tell me what's your viewpoint on this one. I think as long as I'm not harming anybody else, and as long as because this is my own definition of being positive. My definition of being positive is that yes, if you are inspired from others' success, if you feel happy for others' happiness, then your thinking is positive. Of course, I could say I'm only selfish and I'm not helping anybody else if I get jealous of anybody's success. If I'm not happy for others, then I need to work on myself. But other than that, I think as long as my thinking is positive, I'm just working towards my own self-improvement or anything, I'm okay. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. You do, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You learn that the basic is you got to take care of your basic necessities at first, which is, your food, shelter, water. Then comes with your need for security and for, that safety. And it's all those things you need to meet. Mm-hmm. And then on the top of the pyramid was the self-actualization. So you're absolutely right. If you don't have your basic necessities, like if you are not in a place where you want to be in your life, and I'm not saying, do it at all costs. There's the right way of doing things, right? Before we started talking about this today, we're talking about, when your parents wanted you to be an engineer, you said, yes, okay, you went to school, you got a job as an engineer, you worked in that field, but But then your heart was always driven to, I want to do media. And it was interesting for me to hear you say that you were always, one thing is you were always reading the newspaper. Even when you were an engineer, you were fascinated by the newspaper. How was your first entrance into media? It was to buy a newspaper, and that's how then it grew from there to radio, to TV, and so on and forth. So, had you not done that, let's just say you said, oh, I can't have my own aspirations, what is motivating me inside, what brings me joy, I will not take a step. And imagine if you were today an engineer still for decades now, how would you feel?
Yeah, obviously, I don't think so. I'll feel motivated. Today, as I've discussed many times, in the last 23 years, every Sunday, I'm excited to go back to work. And I doubt if I was, as an engineer, I doubt I'd be feeling that way. And you used a very interesting term. So I'm going to sum up 4 terms, and I want you to explain what's the difference. What is the difference between self-love? Self-love. Yeah. You just used the term earlier, self-actualization. What is self-actualization? What is self-love? And and then what is this self-introspection? So what is the difference between all these different terms? Yeah.
Yeah, so I will tell you what I think and not what's in the Oxford Dictionary.
Yes.
So what I think is, self-love is, first of all, understanding that you are this multi-dimensional being, meaning you're existing here physically, but you could exist in other places at the same time. The concept of multiverse, I think this is something that people are now taking a look at, and when it comes to the metaphysics. So there, and you can do that. Like, when you're meditating, if you ever are, or even, I'm not saying even if you're not a deep meditator, even if you're a beginner, you will notice that you can actually observe your thoughts, or sometimes go into a place of peace. Or sometimes when you're watching a movie, you are connecting with the energy of what you're seeing. So if it's a love story, you feel your heart grows, and if it's something sad, your heart hurts, and if it's something scary, you feel those vibrations within your body, those sensations. So that there is so many things at play, like energy. Like anytime you are talking to somebody, you're in someone's presence, you're exchanging, whether it's in music or there's an exchange of energy. And so the reason I think that it's important to take care of yourself is because you are emitting. We're constantly emitting. We always talk about the pyramid, the map of consciousness, right? Like that was from a book called Power versus Force. Take a look at that. That was 250,000 people who were measured in terms of their emotions, and it's measured in hertz. So you can see what they're vibrating at in terms of frequency. And you could see that what you're putting out there, universal laws, we've talked about this, it comes back to you. What you are feeling inside will show up as a mirror to you in other people and circumstances. And so it's so important that how am I showing up today? Because, for example, doing food for thought, I have a process of what I do coming in here to be in high vibration, to feel good, to be able to share. Well, first thing, in a day's basis, because now I have lived a life where I was oblivious to all of this, and I've seen what's happened to my body, my well-being, and there were times where I had burnout in my life where I did not understand that there's an energy exchange, and that if you are not aware of what you're taking on, and you, just listening to a good friend talk about their hard times, you are taking on some of that energy, right? So how do you decharge? Decharge is another word. How do you decharge these energies that are coming at you, or what you're even emitting to other people? And so we have to take responsibility. So it's not just emission when it comes to the environment. It's also energy of what we're doing with each other as human beings, what we're doing with animals, what we're doing with nature, all of it, there is an exchange. So what am I emitting is really important. So on a daily basis, I have to meditate, and I have to do an activity where it includes some sort of movement, because what I've learned is if I do not, our bodies hoard things, right? So sometimes, like when when you have a really good scrub when you go to those spas and then you see skin come out, because our body hoards everything, even energy, stored energy. It will show up as pain in different parts of your body. You gotta stretch, you gotta be able to move, you gotta be able to have some sort of activity. Whether it's dancing, running, exercise, some sort of sports, your body needs to be able to process what's coming in. We're also a processor. It's not just your computer, it's not just your phone that's got processing ability. You have an entire factory that is your entire system, whether it's your digestive system, whether it's all the different systems in your body, they're all working. And here's the other thing. To your body, your voice is the voice of God. Okay, so if I say to my body all the time, why don't you look like this? Why aren't you faster? Why aren't you thinner? Or why aren't you thicker? If I start saying that, my cells take this information and it will manifest the way it is. So if I start showing more self-love in a way which is more acceptance of myself, and I say to my body, you're doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you for, say to your legs. And I know I'm going a bit far, but it really goes into these details. And if we miss any of these things, there's always accumulation. Accumulation wealth is not just putting savings aside a percentage of time. It also accumulates when it comes to your energy in your body. Everything accumulates for the positive or not the positive, the opposite of it. So if I say to my legs, thank you for giving me the ability to walk today, or thank you for my eyesight, or thank you for the fact that I can comprehend these words and say it. If I say that, my body, the atoms, the cells, everything will start functioning the way it's supposed to. So it's very important. So it's about being conscious of these things, right? And then also, if I'm going to come to a place, I can bring my misery. Sometimes it's self-created misery, right? Putting yourself in situations or expecting, or we're talking about the selfish the wrong way. The selfish the wrong way is, yes, expecting that everything should serve you. Okay, let's talk about selfish the wrong way, and then I'll answer those other questions. Selfish the wrong way is if I were to think that this world here is to serve me and my needs, and I have these ideas of great things I want to do for myself, and I have a time limit, and I have a goal and a map in mind of the destination I'm going to take, and I don't think that there's 5 ways of going there. I think there's only one way of going there. And then let's just say I think there's only one way to travel to my home, and then there's a snowstorm, right? And then I'm in a bad mood. So I'm giving as an example that, selfish the wrong way is thinking that everything should be on your time, on your schedule, the way life is supposed to just give to you. And we're not here to, get everything we want. We're not here to accomplish the biggest desires. We're here to learn our lessons. Our soul has this soul journey that's come on. So here's the thing. On a spiritual level, everything, all knowledge is there, right? But then we come into this, what makes it practical. So for example, if I were to go to medical school, but I don't practice, I don't go a day as, practicing with a patient or the medical field, then I just know it intellectually. But then how do I know it practically? By doing the job. So when our soul comes into this body, and this body, it can feel fear. How else would you feel fear unless you're in the body? It can taste food. It can understand the senses of what's bitter, what's sweet. It can cry. It can laugh. It can do all this amazing things because you're in the body. So it gives you that practical experience and understanding of things you want to be able to have for this awareness. So that self-love, going back to that, comes knowing what that is. It's not just me, myself, my personality, Ramona, and my expectations, and why didn't I get what I wanted, and being upset about it. Because then I would show up into this world, I would show up with my family in a bad mood, or feeling like a victim, or all sorts of things, and then I'm emitting, right? What am I emitting? Then I'm emitting shame, guilt, fear. Those are low vibrations, 30 hertz, 50 hertz. It's, look it up. It's the map of consciousness. I'm emitting that. I'm creating more of that into my life. And the people around me are taking that because there's always an energy exchange. Why would I show up and give that to other people, right? It's really taking, what I'm trying to say essentially at the bottom line is taking full responsibility for who you are, what you're putting out there, full responsibility for your body, your thoughts, your expectations, your mind, your mental health, your emotional health. Take responsibility, right? I mean, if I have the ability to read and learn something, then I have the ability to unlearn it, right? It's not just, oh no, this is how I was raised. No, I have a mind. I learned this. I can learn other things. I can diversify the knowing. So I know I went to so many different things, but this is such a big topic that, I came across this topic when I was in meditation, actually. And so just to be able to put it into words in terms of how we can apply it is important. So you said self-love is the acceptance of the fact that I am this multidimensional being having this experience, that I got to be here to, live out what the purpose is, the relationships I have, how I'm supposed to serve at the end of the day. And I cannot serve, like none of us can actually serve humanity, this environment, and to any capacity unless you love yourself. Like how do you know what food tastes well if you don't actually taste it yourself before you're able to offer it to other people when you have guests, or when you do, when you donate your time, when you do volunteer work? How do you know to clean well, right? I was recently volunteering as a server at Vipassana, and it's like, how would I know if I'm not doing it for myself, the level of cleanliness I'm going to bring to do an act of service? Or how can you give advice to someone who may seek your advice unless you're actually doing that self-introspection of yourself and understanding these things? Because otherwise I'd be giving bad advice to people, right? And that's then they do something wrong, that's on me. So it's, what I'm saying is this full level of responsibility that you have as you exist here, because there's always an exchange. There is always an energy exchange of give and take, whether you realize it or not, but that's exactly what's happening. And the other thing is, you said which one? Self-love, self-care?
Self-actualization.
Self-actualization.
Yeah.
Self-actualization is when you've taken, and according to Maslow's pyramid, is when you've taken care of all your basic necessities, right? Like your food, shelter, water, your need for security and safety, and having your emotional needs met and all that. Then it's like, what is the highest self-expression of myself, right? We come here and there's the basic things we could do, but then there's the above and beyond that you can handle, but you decide not to. Like, for example, when I had a trainer in health and sports, at the gym, I had a trainer, and he said to me, he's like, anytime you feel like your muscles are fatiguing, just understand that you've only, only got to 40%. You still have another 60% to go. You think you've fatigued, but you still, and he's like, if you remember that, you can actually finish your repetitions. You can actually finish this next level. And when you start with a lower weight and then you go higher and higher, as you do your repetitions, what you were able to do this week is far beyond what you did last week. That is the self-actualization of your muscles, right? Same thing happens with what you can do in terms of how you could actually serve in a greater way, where you can call it as an act of selflessness, but really you're being selfish the right way, because I also know the more good I do, the more I serve, that comes back to me as well. Everything is mirroring. The more good I feel about myself, right? How good is it when you give a gift to someone? You're giving a gift to someone, but you get so much joy when you see their smile or their surprise, and you're like, yes, I knew they would like that. I knew that, and when you see that, there's this like moment of elation. How good do you feel when you're doing something where somebody actually says, thank you, right? You're giving, but then it's the receiver, when they appreciate it, it always feels so much better. So there is all of that happening at once. And I know I just went so far in terms of scope, but I'll let you bring us back.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. And I think, as you were just explaining, very early on, because when I saw this topic, I was thinking, have I been selfish and doing it in the right way? Have I ever done that? So what I could recall, the first memory of being, maybe I could bracket in that one, being selfish but doing it in the right way. We all have peer pressure, and this is for all the youngsters who think, are they being selfish, or they're not, are they offending their friends? At college, we all used to, not we actually, most of the friends, we all used to drink, smoke, a bit of get high, so many other things that we usually do, and especially in professional colleges. And in professional colleges, well, back in the day, there wasn't much of cell phone or anything. There was very less of communication anyways. So once you are at a college, you're living by yourself, you're not a day scholar, you live in hostel, so you're all by yourself. So very rarely parents would visit us. So at that time, all these things would happen. But being selfish in the right way, maybe I could, when I said, no, not for me, I would never smoke, never drink. And at that time, I was pure vegetarian as well. And I'm not here educating anything is right or wrong. It's all up to you. But I'm just saying, when I looked at myself, now I eat egg though. And I did taste chicken and fish as well. It's not that I haven't tasted, yes, I've done that. But that time, so when my friends would tell me, what is that time? And you're not drinking, you're not smoking, or not doing other stuff, I said, no, I think I'm okay. And to the point that I was vegetarian, the only thing that I would have was, because I didn't even eat eggs at that time, milk. So basically survived on food, and most of the time milk, because I was playing a lot. But I think, of course, it depends what serves you best, but I think it has served me well. Today, I'm happy that I was selfish in the right way. That's all I can say, because sometimes friends will say, there's a very famous author, and I was listening to one of his interviews. His name is Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh is a very well accomplished, he's no more in this world now. But one thing which really resonated, one of his things, he would have a fixed time. And I think when you're talking of being selfish in the right way, one of the things that you would see people who self-love or anything, one word I want to say here is being disciplined. If you're not disciplined, I doubt you're not loving yourself. And disciplined in so many different ways. You're taking care of health. Your hygiene is very important. I think for me, hygiene is very important. Discipline is very important for me, because being in media, everything it has to be timed. Being on time on the radio show, I have to start live TV shows. The news has to come. It has to go on time. So it requires a lot of discipline. I mean, if on a long weekend you suddenly have a breaking news, and I'm scheduled to work from 10 to 12, and this happened the last long weekend. So a breaking news came, and I cannot say, oh, I'm not scheduled or anything. Yes, I have to be very disciplined, focused, that I have to. It's a news. I'm in the media business, so I have to make sure I get the news and deliver that. So Khushwant Singh would say that 10 p.m., no matter what, even if I'm having party at home, he said, I would go upstairs and I would sleep. That was his style. So I was surprised, how could someone do like that? But now to your point, being selfish in the right way. He's not harming anybody. Even if it's a party at home, he said, if I'm anybody else, there's my fixed time to go to bed. I'll make sure I leave the party on time, come back at home, I'll go to bed at that time. Akshay Kumar was once asked that you wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning every day. He said, no, that's wrong. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. There has never been one day that I have not seen when the sun rises. So people, and he also said the same thing. I don't go to much of the parties. Many people blame me for that. Hey, why you're not here? There are so many late night events happening in the movie industry, and it all starts late. Most of the events, they say, there starts at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. He says, I have to miss most of them. And many people ask me, but he says, no. So again, being selfish in the right way. And to your point, I'll again say this thing, that yes, I personally feel that way, that since I've started introspection more and more, introspection can lead to happiness. It can lead to success. It can lead to making others more happy around you. It can definitely lead to your vibration will be high, because then you know what I need. Because if I know what makes me happy, it'll lead to your higher vibrations. And of course, I mean, maybe that's your goal or not, and you will tell me, is that a game you definitely have to play? I think so, yes, but you tell me. I think, but it can also lead to a spiritual journey as well. All these things. What do you say?
Being able to be more self-aware and do the
Yeah, introspection.
Introspection.
Yeah, but my question to you was that introspection and all these things, being selfish in the right way, when I'm connecting all these dots, my question to you was, do you think spirituality, we'll discuss this full topic, I think this is a full topic in itself to discuss, but just on a brief and we'll come back to the topic. Do you think spirituality is something that we all need to follow this path, or It's okay.
Yes, 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 because you belong in the spirit world, regardless of any religion, or any tribe or any understanding, is that there's an afterlife. Where that afterlife is, there's a lot of things open to debate based on the faith or lack thereof. But it is understood that there's the physical you, and then there is the spirit. And also when it comes to if you believe in a faith and you practice a faith, you're also praying to an energy, right? Your parent, whether it's praying to God or a saint or whatever the case is, you're praying to an energy that you believe, even though you cannot feel it and touch it. Well, not feel it. You can't touch it or see it. You can feel it. There is a level of devotion there. So for that same reason, we are a spiritual being having this physical time right now. But the laws that dictate the physical time here come from the spiritual world. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that is we're in this, let's just say this right now in this game of sorts, right? Right now I am playing, this person called Ramona, and I can tell you where I was born, I can tell you what ethnicity, I can tell you all those what seem factual things. But also there is the aspect of my soul had a plan that came here. It chose my parents, it chose my family, it chose the destination, it chose, I'm not sitting here with you by accident. We're not having this conversation just because we feel like it. This conversation came from actually a lot of self-awareness. That's how this topic was born, actually. So when you take a look at the fact that we're in this simulation, this thing that we're in, because I chose certain lessons to experience, and I can only experience it to grow my awareness and my consciousness in this body. So how much time do I have? It's unknown. We don't know that, but we do know that every moment we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to choose when to rise above something that's hard. We have the ability to just decide, okay, well, I'm going to experience this, whether it's pain or joy. This is up to us to experience. So I believe you're never late, you're never early, everything is on time. Now, because we're here for our lessons that we want to experience, and in some teachings it's called karma. There's good and bad. There's that, again, what's karma? It's that exchange of energy, right? It's the exchange of energy of and now if you want to replace the word energy, action, words, feelings, thoughts, all is energy. They're all vibrating at a certain frequency. So I take a look at the fact that I'm here because of those lessons. Now it's my choice, because I have a mind, that I choose that I'm done with this lesson. Thank you so much. I have learned it. Now I want to be the master of this lesson. I don't want to keep repeating the same cycle. You'll know if you haven't learned those lessons, is if it starts showing up in your life over and over again, but with different names, different characters, different circumstances, then you know you haven't learned that lesson. So it's really important to be very, not just have the I can't say the word today. Introspection for within, but also look outside of you, because the whole world is mirroring you. So if I start seeing, for example, if my sister's life is a certain way and she has certain challenges, I'm meant to see that. There's something for me to learn. I could say, oh, it's her karma, or I could say, I'm supposed to go and help, but at the same time, there's a reason why I'm seeing it. There's a learning for me, even if I'm not experiencing it firsthand, you experience it secondhand or third hand, whatever the case is. So it's about, tuning in to what's happening around you. And even if you can't make sense of what is happening or why it's happening, pray about it. Pray about it, because there is a dimension of you, because we're multidimensional beings, that will give you those answers. And you could say, God, give me the answer. You can say the saints, and you can say anything, and that's okay. And everything is good and well, as long as we are pursuing the reasons of what is that message? What is that? And when I say lesson means growing, right? What happens in school? You go from, junior kindergarten to grade 12. It's because you're taking your lessons, you're taking your exams, you're passing your quiz, then your exam, you're passing, and then you go to the next level. Same thing's happening in this game of life. There's levels, and if I don't pass grade 2 in this life, not in the school board system, but in this life, I stay in grade 2. Now, many faiths believe that then you come back and repeat grade 2, and other faiths believe that, okay, well then your afterlife, where you stay forever, is determined on how you live. So whether you like it or not, you want to pass grade 2, you want to go to grade 3, you want to keep moving up, and that is part of that self-actualization, to be able to go up, and I don't mean up in a linear sense, but go out in terms of your growth, go out in terms of your love, understanding, compassion. That's part of passing those grades. Nowhere is there a test that says, you have to prioritize hate over love, right? That's not like, I don't know the answers of the quiz and the test, but I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't a multiple choice, that it wouldn't be like, oh, love is not the answer. Love is the answer, because not 10 out of 10 times, it's usually if I can show love for myself, I can show love for the circumstance, if I can show love for the person, or I can show love for the situation, I usually feel better, right? But if I show hate or animosity or fear or shame or rejection, I usually feel worse. That's the energy. So it's also be mindful of the energy that you are exchanging in, not just in your own emotions, but the circumstances, the people, the work that you do, the things, the activities you partake in, the inner dialogue. All of that is a big, because you could have an inner dialogue that is very harmful to you, right? Like I said, like my body, when I talk to it, it's hearing the voice of God, and it will obey my command. So if I have a very negative self-talk, it doesn't matter what sort of introspection I have, it would be negative. So it's also having that balance of, is my self-talk, is my, when I'm looking in, is that coming from a negative place? Because it's not. It shouldn't be, because it's going to be more harmful than good. So there's so many ways of tackling this, and we could go on forever. But it's this game, and I'll tell you something. I had a meditation today, and this comes, and I'm going to be very vivid in what I saw. And the meditation I'm supposed to practice is supposed to not visualize anything, because it's Vipassana. It's supposed to observe your body and your sensation and see as the sensations come, as what's arising will pass. But then I went into a place where I saw, I've listened to so many interviews of people who've had like near-death experiences, and they'll go to the other side and they'll come back, and it wasn't time for them to go, so they're able to talk about it. So then there seems to be a reoccurring theme that the reason it's just called a near-death experience and not dying is because there's a cord. So it's very interesting if you can visualize this. So here's your physical body, and there's your soul, and your soul could be out here, and there's a cord between you and that soul, your soul, not that soul, your soul. And the reason someone can have a near-death experience is they go, and the cord is still intact, so they can come back. And then once the cord severs, they say that it's very hard to come back. That's death, right? There's no cord, it's severed. You could look at it severing your ties in terms of the physical body. So you continue to live, the physical body will disintegrate. So I had this visualization today where I was sitting, and so the soul, and I saw the cord. I saw a white cord, and that's what I saw. I don't know what color it is, but I'm just telling you in terms of my imagination, because there is a story, there's a lesson for me, and perhaps maybe you'll get something out of it. So I thought about this cord, and I thought, well, and then you're just floating out there, right? And then I thought, oh my goodness, what happens if the cord gets cut? And then, if you can imagine diving and swimming so fast to get to your destination in terms of to be able to save yourself. And I thought, oh my goodness, I would dive right back into this body, because there's so much I still have to do. There's so many people I have to still apologize to, I feel, right? There's so many people I need to serve more. Then I had this endless list of things that came to my mind of you haven't done any of that. If you tap out now, right, like in sports, I guess you tap out or tap in, maybe I'm just making that up, but if you tap out now, there's this whole bunch of stuff that remains undone. And what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Do you come back to do it? What if you don't? Or what if it's not now, and do you want to repeat those lessons? And that realization made me think, oh my goodness, my time is so valuable in terms of what I'm doing, not just for myself, like my selfish way, but like, how am I showing up? Like, am I mindful of, if I want to live a longer life, we always think your health, you got to take care of your health. But then there's so many different aspects of it that, why be so rigid, right? We talked about feminine, masculine energies, right? We all have both in them. I'm not just feminine or just masculine. I gotta have a balance of those where I can stay in calm and feminine energy to be able to appreciate what is, but then the masculine energy is able to push me forward and organize me and plan and execute. That's masculine energy. Feminine energy will just be more into creativity and could create by just existing. Masculine energy is like, I got to go and do it. With feminine, it just comes to you. So it's having that balance. How do you create that balance? Knowing that they both fully exist in you. And in Asian philosophy, it's yin and yang, right? You have both. And so what movements are you doing? Where's your mind going? What energy are you exchanging with? And I'll give you an example when I say exchanging energy. My sister works in the luxury industry, and so once she was talking to somebody and she was saying, how the industry is a certain way where, it's very hard and it's very ego-driven when it comes to the manufacturers and, and the service providers and whatnot. And I came down to the realization that, yes, you need the existence of ego for an industry of luxury. Otherwise, it would just be really nice things. But luxury means that it's very exclusive. There's scarcity in it, whether it's in terms of the items you could purchase or the people that could purchase it. It's a very exclusive club. And so that is driven by the ego. So if you don't have ego, then luxury would not exist. It would just be really nice things. And because it's exclusive and because there's scarcity, then you feel like you need to have it. So what do? Do you work harder? Do you spend your money? Do you forego other things just to be able to get it? And what is that sense that it's giving you that's outside of yourself? So a big part of self-love is don't find love outside of yourself. That's another way of putting it. It's really, because the nicest car that you have, how happy were you and for how long? Really. Really. The nicest shoes, right? The nicest, eventually becomes, I don't want to use the word mundane, but it becomes ordinary, right? And so that, and then you focus on the next thing, and then you focus on the next thing, and then you forever, there's that chase happening, not realizing you're playing this game, and you might be in grade 2, or you might be in junior kindergarten, not passing your grades because you're focusing on getting that love, or that achievement, or that that sense of accomplishment outside of yourself. Meanwhile, we're so accomplished for just being human beings. We're so accomplished to be here right now in this day and age, and we've all opted in to be here. And so I know it was a lot.
No, definitely not. I think very nicely explained, and finally the introspection also came back.
Yes.
But I think you've explained in detail all different aspects of this. And yeah, we wish we had more time. We could do another show on this one if you want. But definitely, on a sum-up note, all I can say is that yes, don't be apologetic if you're being selfish for the right reason. So you don't need to apologize to anyone. And if you're being selfish for the right reasons in the right way, obviously you'll try to figure out what makes you happy. You'll try to figure out and success has its own definition for everyone, what makes you successful, how you can motivate others, encourage others, inspire others, how you can be in that particular vibration, very high vibration, how others can benefit from that. Imagine if you're not working very hard, or if you're not studying hard at one stage, maybe your career won't flourish. So being selfish in the right way is working inwards towards yourself to be a better human being, to be more successful in different things. And of course, during the course of time, you would be encouraging, motivating, inspiring everyone else as well. And in today's day and age, sometimes also feel that, taking a compliment itself, be selfish in the right way. If someone is complimenting you, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay if someone is complimenting you. Some people have hard time in taking a compliment. If someone is hugging you or if someone is loving you, fine. If someone is admiring you, I mean, obviously there are big stars. They have so many fans, right? So don't hide away if you're doing something good. People are admiring you, liking you, following you, complimenting you. It's great. Be selfish in the right way. That's okay. And finally, I would say this thing again. I'll wrap up on this thing. Introspection, please. In case you already figured out what makes you happy, it's great. Follow the journey, how you could be happy. But in case you haven't, do that introspection today itself. What makes you happy? What's your makeup? What are your ingredients? What is your inner self? And then obviously if you benchmark everything, then only you can work on that. And Ramona ji, I must say this, you are a perfect example, because I've seen you transition a lot. And I think when I read this topic, being selfish in the right way, I'll completely leave aside the negative connotation. I've seen you just focusing on how to up your game, how to, get more inner peace. You were mentioning just very good things right now, and I completely agree with that. When you were saying we can run after being a millionaire, fine. What's next? 10 million, obviously. 10 million, fine. 30 million. I can tell you that I know people who have 100 million, 200 million, and here I see them working 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week. And maybe it's good. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. I'm not judging here anyone. But I think, is there inner peace? The inner peace you can achieve with so many different things. I think if I'm sitting over here, you said a very beautiful thing just now. Amazing thing that you just. I think I'm so thankful to the God, so thankful to universe right now that yes, I'm alive. I'm in the company of great souls. I borrowed that word from you. I'm in the company of great souls. Do I really need anything else in my life right now? Absolutely not. So this will give us inner peace, and I think we can be selfish in the right way. Thank you so much. Ramona ji.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me in this topic. I think at the end of the day, part of what we're here to do is to create. So create the experiences you want to have, share them. And as long as it's not to harm anyone, and as long as what you want to create and what you want to bring into your life, doesn't harm anybody, then this is what we're here to do. And that will be all part of the journey of your self-love, your self-expression, your self-actualization, all of that. And I think that you can only be your best and do your best and enjoy your time here once you've taken care of yourself. And in a way where it doesn't harm other people. But, in the example that you gave where, the actor would wake up early because that's how he prays to his God and prays to his soul and his being, and he appreciates himself because he sees that this life is bigger than his stardom. That regardless of who he is or what he's not, the sun will come up, the sun will go down. There's a greater force, there's a greater story, there's a greater reason, and that's a nice reminder to be able to wake up and to witness something that's far greater than you, that you have no control over, but you submit to. And if you can do that, you can forego the other things to allow yourself to have those things. And that is, and you could say that's self-love, self-expression, selfish, whatever the reason is, do it the right way and it'll always be good. So thank you so much for this time.
Yeah, and finally, we'll sum up on our prayer that we say before summing up. Please.
Yes, it's the Ho'oponopo. It is a Hawaiian prayer, and this will also help shift that to be able to feel really good. So it's, and there's miracles. Look it up. There's a whole documentary on it, on how people were healed, not just others, but the self, by saying these 4 sentences. It's, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you.
Thank you so much. And I also repeat that Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. I think I've said this many times. I'll say this again. I don't think so there is any other purpose of life, just loving. And of course, today we always say sharing love, loving others, being helpful, do not hurt anyone you just mentioned. But if we could be selfish in the right way, yes, we must love ourselves. We shouldn't be hurting ourselves as well. We must take care of ourselves. And I was introduced to this word by Ramona ji right here at Food for Thought, self-love. That's what they call it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Thank you. You take care. Thank you. Thank you.